Hey, welcome everybody. My name is Jenny, and in today's video, I want to do a Q&A about Paraguay. I gathered a bunch of questions all about Paraguay. These were questions sometimes made directly to myself, or other times I've read them as comments on the internet, on other videos, and other Facebook groups, and so on. So let's dive right in. Where is Paraguay located? Paraguay is located in South America. Is Paraguay a landlocked country? Yes, Paraguay has no direct access to the sea. What countries border Paraguay? The countries that border Paraguay are Brazil, Argentina, and Bolivia. What is the capital of Paraguay? The capital of Paraguay is Asunción. What are the major rivers in Paraguay? The two main rivers in Paraguay are the Paraguay River, which gives the country its name, and the Paraná River, which borders with Argentina and further upstream with Brazil. Does Paraguay have mountains? Yes, Paraguay does have mountains, but these are smaller ones. We don't have like a big mountain range like the Andes or the Rocky Mountains, or in Europe the Alps. These are like smaller outliners. The highest elevation point in Paraguay is 800 and something meters, if I'm not mistaken. What is the climate like in Paraguay? In Paraguay, we have a tropical climate, so expect a hot and humid climate here. What is the official language in Paraguay? Paraguay has two official languages, Spanish and Guarani. Guarani is like the native heritage of Paraguay. It's spoken by a lot of people, so specifically in the countryside, you'll find a lot of places where there is almost only spoken Guarani. People there do speak Spanish, but they prefer to speak Guarani. What is the predominant religion in Paraguay? The predominant religion in Paraguay is Catholicism. What is the most popular sport in Paraguay? The most popular sport in Paraguay is football, or if you're in the USA, soccer. What is the history of Paraguay? So this one is a big one, and we can dive like we can literally speak hours about this one. I'm planning to do a longer video explaining the history of Paraguay, how Paraguay came to be. But in a nutshell, Paraguay was a Spanish colony, and in 1811 gained its independence. Why is the Triple Alliance War so important? The Triple Alliance War is important because it basically almost erased Paraguay from the maps. So it decimated the Paraguayan population, specifically men. I think about like 90% of all men in Paraguay were died during the war, and Paraguay was left with a population of some estimates that are about 100,000 to 150,000 people. And so the aftermath of the war shaped a lot of policies that some are still in place in today's day and age. Why does Paraguay have two independence days? This is a good question. So the reason for that is because the independence revolution, where the Paraguayans kicked out the Spanish governor, was during the night of the 14th to the 15th of May in 1811. And so Congress decided they would honor both dates. So because it started on the 14th and ended on the 15th, so Paraguay has two Independence Days. What indigenous influences exist in Paraguayan culture today? There is a lot of indigenous and native heritage in Paraguay in this day and age. So one, and I think the main one, the biggest one, is the Guarani language, which is widely spoken, which is an official language. You can like official documents and everything get it in Guarani, and but the heritage goes so much deeper. I'm not quite informed to answer that, but that's definitely an entire video worth on its own. What is the traditional music and dance of Paraguay? So I would say the polka Paraguay is the traditional music, which is like a lot of guitar and harp music. I'm not so much into that. I would need to do more research on that. And the dances are like the women with these long dresses and so on. I it's embarrassing for me to admit, even though I was born and raised here in Paraguay, not to know that stuff. What are some traditional Paraguayan foods? So I would argue my favorite Paraguayan food is the barbecue or the asado. I don't know if you can consider that as a traditional Paraguayan dish or food. But yeah, so another one would be like the chipa, which is kind of a cheese and cornbread. Um, then there's the sopa, which is the sopa paraguaya, um, which is also like a corn dough, like a cake of corn or something like that. And so, what type of government does Paraguay have? Paraguay has a representative democracy, like almost every Western state in this day and age. How stable is Paraguay politically? In the modern day, Paraguay is reasonably stable. So there has been tumult in the past, like a couple of decades ago. There were dictators and there were military uprisings and so on. But I think like in the last like since the 2000s, it has been like very stable politically. We can do a video where we dissect Paraguayan politics. Is Paraguay a member of the Mercosur? Yes, Paraguay is one of the founding and permanent members of the Mercosur. What is the education system like in Paraguay? Uh, I don't have much knowledge on the public education here in Paraguay. But what I can say, it's not to compare with like Western education, like in the U.S. or in Europe. So Paraguay, in that regard, at least the public education is way behind. Can foreigners buy land in Paraguay? Yes, you can apply for residency and buy your land, or even if you don't want to come to Paraguay, don't want to step foot in Paraguay, you can as well. There are methods of how you can buy land in Paraguay, be it like for agricultural purposes or like office building, any type of real estate. What is the currency in Paraguay? The currency we use here in Paraguay is called Guarani, the same as the language, and it is one of the oldest currencies on the continent. And I would argue one of the most stable ones as well in comparison to the other local currencies. One Guarani is, or do it the other way, like $1 is about 7,000 something Guaranis, 7,500 Guaranis, in that range. What are the main industries in Paraguay? So the main exports are agricultural products like beef and corn and soybeans. Um, Paraguay is trying to industrialize more and more, but there are some challenges coming with that. Is Paraguay an expensive country to live in? No, not at all. I would argue it's comparably cheap. So if you are looking for like Western standards, I think you can live in Paraguay for a fraction of that cost. What is the tax system in Paraguay? Um, I'm not a tax expert, but taxes are comparably low. So I would guess. So I would say like the main taxes are the value-added tax, which is about 10%. There's the corporates revenue tax. I probably misspelled that. Also at 10%, personal income tax 10%. Real estate taxes, I think, is about 1% of the value of the real estate. Um, and yeah, I think that are the main taxes. Is Paraguay a good place to retire or move to? It depends what you want for retirement. I see a lot of people that are moving here to Paraguay specifically to retire or to move to a place that's not that busy. Specifically, if you have lived like your entire life in a busy city and you wanna enjoy like a more quiet countryside, I think it can definitely be specifically if you enjoy warm warm climate. If you aren't against sweating all day, then this could be the place to be. What is the Itaipu Dam? The Itaipu Dam was one of the biggest. I think right now it's not anymore. There are other dams that surpassed it, but it was one of the biggest dams in the world in terms of capacity of how much electricity it generates. So the Itaipu Dam was built uh, with Paraguay in conjunction with Brazil, and I think like the Itaipu Dam delivers like the almost the entire southern part of Brazil up to Sao Paulo, Rio de Janeiro with electricity. Yeah, and on that point, so maybe interesting fact to mention that Paraguay, the entire electricity in the Paraguayan grid is renewable energy, comes from that dam, and there's another dam as well. What is the nickname of Paraguay? So the nickname for the country of Paraguay is called like the heart of South America, and that's because it's such a central place in the middle of South America, and it's basically bordered by a lot of countries, like the most important countries here in South America. What is the most typical drink in Paraguay? The most typical drink in Paraguay is the tereré, which is basically like a cold infused tea. If you have been to Argentina, you probably have seen mate, which is kind of the hot version of it. So it's like the yerba tea, and the mate is when you brew hot water, drink it with hot water, and tereré is just if you drink it with cold water. What is the symbolic tree of Paraguay? So the symbolic tree of Paraguay would be the lapacho. I think it's called pink trumpet. So we have the pink ones and we have the yellow ones. And in the winter they lose all their foliage, and then when they start blooming in the spring or coming up to spring, they leave like a beautiful blanket of pink flowers all over the soil. So that's it from me now. Let me know, do you have more questions about Paraguay? I'm happy to answer them. Just leave them in the comments and I'll go back to them.